All right, what's up, y'all? Today we're going to talk about communication, bits and pieces that have to do with beginning a relationship, some of the strategies that's needed to perform well um, when establishing the beginning of a relationship with healthy boundaries. Beginning with communication, we understand that community throughout America, I guess, we all have, different cultures, and different cultures have different styles of communication. So communication dialogue usually flows easily, at the start of relationships. But as time passes, communication becomes, more challenging as it becomes more pressing to broach sensitive topics. Um, a lot of relationships have these, dysfunctional cycles or feedback loops where a certain topic in your relationship is going to cause an argument, no matter where you are, when you do it, what time you choose to pick, because it's a fragile situation. A lot of men and women are walking on eggshells because they don't know how to approach their mate, their partner, their wife, with certain topics. Either, the male will lose it, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, or the female will lose it. Some of us in relationships have partners with anxiety, and I'm saying partners because I don't know who's a male listening to this or who's a female listening to this, but we know that this is for couples, right? And so it becomes pressing to kind of approach these topics, right? Especially when an argument is going to happen, and later on we'll start talking about second order of morality, second order of change, and that type of thing. So we will be discussing some of that later. To solve problems together and peacefully resolve conflicts, it takes communication, man. I mean, if not, these patterns will continue to arise. They'll continue to be seeded, and every time that your communication structure breaks down, at that point, you're actually watering weeds to grow in your garden, right? And so every time now you get to that ground or that garden or that, when you have a garden, you have corn over here, beans over there, greens over here, strawberries over here. So each topic has a different watering or fertilizing effect that the communication actually does to plant these seeds and to water them in the type of fertilizer that it needs to help them grow. Well, sometimes what we do is water, I guess I would say, non-productive fertilization on one of our garden beds, which could be whatever sensitive topic that it may be. And we're going to cause weeds to grow or the plants to die because we're going to, do it with cognitive distortions, which means creating our own narrative, our own parallel realities to what's actually happening. Somebody may be losing it, screaming at the top of their lungs, arms flailing all in the sky because they can't deal with the type of, streamlined version of communication, which two mature adults can do. Well, everybody doesn't mature at a certain stage or a certain age, or there's not a process that's similar or established as a baseline for everyone. Everyone is at different levels in their styles of communication. But effective communication is what is needed to peacefully, resolve conflicts. Partners, and I got some notes written here. Partners in long-term committed relationships need to work together to establish communication patterns that will deepen intimacy and strengthen connection. Developing patterns. Let's talk about the developing patterns part. First order of morale. Let's talk about that. And you guys can Google this, first order of morale. And I'll go into deeper into this. First order of morality, or first order of change, right? First order of morale is, you're cooking in the kitchen with your girlfriend or your husband or whatever it is. And you guys, one person's over here doing this and the other person's over here doing that. You guys kind of got to dance. You kind of done that a lot. It's kind of normal for you guys to behave in a way that's sensible to you, right? That's the first order of morale. Nobody had to explain that. You guys just kind of did that, right? So that's a pattern. That's first order morale, your morals in a relationship. Or, you do this, or I wash dishes while you cook, or wash dishes and clean up while you cook, so the kitchen's not so nasty. You guys will establish this dance, right? And what this will do is create a peaceful dance throughout the house. Communication, there's no stress levels. Everybody's good. Everything is happening. Well, if somebody comes into the kitchen, the other partner comes in one day and you guys are cooking and somebody just start taking the pots and banging the pots, and that's going to cause the second order. Like, well, okay, what now? There's a new layer added here, right? And when there's a new layer here, somebody's uncomfortable, right? Somebody's going to be at a different stage or higher in this stage of communication. And I may lose some of y'all here, but this is evidence-based material. This is not something that I'm just kind of making up, right, as I go. Like, this is real talk. This is on the backs of scholars around the world. And so, if the person comes in and they're banging things, the other person's like, what's going on? Why are you doing that? First of all, it's a disruption to the first order of morale, right? We have this baseline. We've considered this in our brain, our psyche, our soul as something that's good. We come in, we cook, we do our thing. That's good. We've set our own standards without even really trying to, set some standards, right? They just kind of automatically create it. But when there's a disruption in that cycle, you have a second order of morale, right? And so now something else is going on that needs to be changed. That's when that second order of morale comes in. One person is going to be irritated. And let's say if you come in and you continue to do that every time, for sure that an argument is going to happen. Well, what do? Well, you stop doing that, right? Because you learn that you're in psychology, what you're doing is creating a negative effect, right? And when you create that negative effect, you're going to get a negative response. And if you guys continue to have a conversation, or you engage in committed conversations to build your relationship, and you continue to get to those sensitive areas and you have a negative response, the conversation a lot of times just breaks down at that point. Once it breaks down, you guys are done. Somebody's going to stonewall somebody else and go sit off to the side and be quiet and not want to talk to somebody. Somebody else is going to push the issue. That's what we call a pursuer-distancer relationship, right? The pursuer is just going to continue to pursue, and they want to go get therapy and they want to do this, and the other person really don't want to do that. And that might not be the person that's, stonewalling or, blocking the person out in the relationship. That could be either way, right? And I think I might be getting a little too deep for first-time viewers, so I'll try to keep this as short as possible. Effective communication skills include active listening and building empathy, respect, and trust. Many couples benefit from improving their listening skills, which include giving your partner your full and undivided attention when they're speaking to you, and reflecting or paraphrasing what your partner has said so they know that you understood them. And that looks like, baby, so, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I hear you saying is, I do this, and this, and that kind of irritates you or send you over the edge, right? That's kind of active listening. That's what you call active listening. And then you search for a solution. You say, well, what advice would you have for me to better be able to do this or to not do this? What would you have me do instead? And then your partner tells you what they'd rather have you do instead. And what that does is build a level of trust, commitment. The individual knows that you're hearing them. You guys are willing to move on. And the relationship will get better. But sometimes the other partner doesn't want to do the work. And when the other partner doesn't want to do the work, you're kind of stuck in a dysfunctional cycle, a negative feedback loop. And it just we're going to get to this conversation again. I know that it's going to cause a negative experience and create some, emotional, cognitive, some kind of distress in my symptoms, in my frequency. I'm going to start to experience a breakdown. As soon as you begin a conversation, you start to get early warning signs, right? In your head and your spirit, you're going to a negative component of this conversation. And what that's going to do is create early warning signs like, oh no, your system's like, oh no, not this again. I don't want to talk about this. Things are breaking down, man. Things are going to start to break down. When you get early warning signs, if you don't catch it and try to do that second order of change, like, baby, you know what? I see that we finna start arguing and I know that we do. Let's just dance. Put on some of that Marvin Gaye and let's, that Freddie Jackson or that Luke, rock with me, something, right? And y'all know I'm a character a little bit. So this is just how it's going to be. My characters are going to come out in these videos. But what you want to do is make sure that you're giving your partner undivided attention. Building empathy, to understand each other's perspectives and feelings, which can help you negotiate differences and balance your need. Treating each other with respect promotes calm, constructive dialogue that helps keep the conflict from escalating. A lot of times that's not that's not true. I mean, theoretically it's true, on the surface it's true, but some people just can't take, partners with anxiety, sometimes they just can't take the conversation, whether it's calm or you yelling or screaming. I prefer the calm side. People with distress or with anxiousness, frequencies that they deal with consistently, especially folks that catastrophize, that everything that you say to them is going to be negative. No matter how you word it, repackage it, articulate it, try to make it as palatable as possible. Some people are just not going to get it. They're not ready. They're not even willing to do the work. At that point, this is why relationship counseling is really important to get to before you get into a relationship with somebody, before you kind of get into that marriage mindset. This is like a position that you guys are filling in each other's lives, right? You need a 90-day or 6-month or a year probationary period before we even know that we really want to hire you, right? Or we really want to, marry you. Some jobs, when you look at it, like you get a 90-day probation, and if the supervisor's like, I got some red flags, kind of, you can always extend that 90-day probationary period to another 90-day probationary period. Just talk with your HR, and say, hey man, this ain't working. I'm seeing some red flags here. One thing I want to say is you cannot love the red flags out of people. If you see red flags, it is what it is. You need to address those situations as much as possible. But like it says, treating each other with dignity and respect promotes calm, constructive dialogue and helps to keep the conflict from escalating. If you see that your other partner, you stay in a calm dispositional lens. If you see your partner escalating or elevating, then what you want to do is try to use triggering words to calm, like, baby, can we speak calmly? Can we talk calmly? Do we have to yell? And if that person just wants to continue to yell, then that person's probably not a good communicator. They probably need to take some conflict resolution classes, watch some videos on conflict resolution, and revitalize their communication skills, revitalize the relationship. And if you find yourself falling apart, then remember why you fell in love with that person, right? Remember that. You got to remember that. And so I guess I'm going to just end this video because I know I hit some pieces. I know it's a lot to kind of unpack. Watch this video again to really unpack this. There are some powerful jewels in here, and I don't want you guys to miss these jewels. I'm currently working on my doctorate degree in marriage and family therapy. My psychology degree, my master's degree is in forensic psychology. So I understand the mind, the body, the behaviors, psychosis, mental health, anxiety, depression, all these things. These are all my scopes, right? I put together treatment facilities, methadone clinics, outpatient substance use and mental health facilities, crisis unit, first responders. I developed these programs throughout my state, throughout 5 counties. So I've, not just talking because, I just look like this. I've really done this, right? And so once again, I'm a mental health professional in the state of Washington, designated mental health professional, working on my doctorate degree. So a lot of these things that, I'm studying or writing papers about in my doctorate degree that I've lived through, actually. And now I found the tools to help, right? And I've played some of these things out in the relationships. And it just, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Some people's ready to do this work and some people not. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the way it is. Let me see. So where was I at? Building trust, negotiate difference, balancing your needs. Treating each other with respect promotes calm, constructive dialogue and keeps conflict from escalating. That's if both parties want to. Let me say that again. That's if both parties want to. I know folks, and I've been in situations where, I'm that calm head and I'm trying to keep, her calm and she's not able to do that. Right. And so sometimes you just got to move on. Right. I mean, it's either for you or it's not. Right. Either that person's for you or it's not. There was a lesson in that relationship as you had to break up and you had to move on. And, I would also suggest men, keep sex out of the relationship, you know what I'm saying? So you can actually see what this person's working with and not be sprung on some sexual intimacy, right? You don't want to be misguided with your emotions and your feelings and your sexual desires about how you feel about somebody. Get to know that person for real before you make a decision to really, really, really go all the way. And so, yeah, treating others with dignity and respect promotes calm, constructive dialogue and helps keep conflict from escalating. Building trust creates the foundation of emotional safety that allows couples to be vulnerable with one another and talk about sensitive issues openly and honestly. Speaking about being vulnerable with one another, when a man is vulnerable with a woman, that's his place of rest. That's his solace, his solitude. That's where he should be able to be vulnerable when he's with his woman. There's a conversation floating around the internet, around on YouTube and social media, is about men being vulnerable with women and whether, whether a man should be vulnerable with women. And some men say, no, we shouldn't be vulnerable. Well, man, the guys that are hard all the time, don't have the emotional fortitude to actually be fluid in their conversation and their emotions. They got this hard aura. Imagine how they treat their women, right? You rough on a woman. And so, as an alpha male, having walked in this earth as an alpha male and be then, later on becoming a therapist, understanding men, understanding women, it's very important that a man has somewhere to be vulnerable, especially with his woman. And if your woman is judging you on your vulnerability, then she's not the woman for you. But definitely men should be vulnerable. I mean, we have all emotions. Our God is vulnerable. You know what I mean? He's sad on the way the nation of Israel has treated him, which is us, by the way. But I don't want to, get into that. I digress. But what I would say is just build empathy towards your partner, and make sure that you strengthen your relationship and your connection with calm communication, and try to be as effective as possible. I will get on to other videos later, but I wish y'all a happy Sunday and y'all be blessed.